Right, hello again, and this is going to be a very, very unusual whiskey from what I've gathered from when I've done my research. But first, I will explain exactly what's been going on in terms of why the surrounding is as this rather than my kitchen. Why I'd been a little bit, about 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, why I'd been a little bit kind of like, oh, I've got lots on and I can't tell you. And why my upload times have been all over the place, like literally 10 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock in the morning and everything like that. And it's because I've been on holiday. We've been in, for the last 2.5 weeks, I've been with the wife and kids, with my parents in Orlando, in Walt Disney World for the last 2.5 weeks. We go every year and love it, and if I could move out here I would in a heartbeat. I'm actually quite seriously looking at buying a liquor store somewhere in the Orlando area, because it has to be said, liquor stores in Florida particularly, and liquor stores in Orlando are rubbish. They're just, everything's stacked high, there's no personality, it's some guy just sat on the counter that doesn't even say hello, and it's just like, there's your beer, there's your bourbon, there's your whiskey, whatever, go and do it. Total Wine stand out a mile, and ABC Spirits as well. If you're in Orlando, if you're going to Orlando and you want to pick up some decent wine and some decent spirits and talk to people that know what they're talking about, ABC Spirits, Wines and Spirits, and Total Wine and More. That's the only two places worth going to, because the other liquor stores that you find elsewhere are shit. Really, really bad. Anyway, so that's where I've been. This is actually, where I am at the moment, is one of the spare bedrooms in a, call it a villa if you want. It's a holiday home. It's actually, our family have literally just bought it. It was completed 3 months ago. We're renting it out. This is what it looks like. It's in a new resort called the Encore Club in, it's literally 10 minutes directly south of the Walt Disney World Resort. We've been staying here for the last 2.5 weeks. It's got its own pool. There's a water park as part of the complex, which is directly opposite us. You can see it out the front window. In fact, here's a picture of what it looks like. And yeah, it's a 6-bedroom villa, holiday home, whatever you want to call it, in a private resort complex. And if you know people, because we're renting it out and we want to try and make some money so that we can come out again next year. So if you know some people that often come to Orlando and like to rent out a villa or a house, or if you yourself are thinking about it, send me an email. I could no doubt sort you some decent price out, lower than you'd be paying if you went full whack. And it's been brilliant, and if I could move to this house, then we would do. If I could get a job out here, I would move out here in a heartbeat. So if there is anybody in the Orlando area that wants a wine, beer, spirits guy to come and work for you, then I'm your man. Or to work for Disney, because I would work for Disney as well, like that, because I love it. Walt Disney World is amazing. We don't go on holiday to Orlando. We come home for 3 weeks and then holiday in the UK for the rest of the year. I love it. Absolutely love it. Been coming here since I was 11, 12 and never want to leave. So by the time I'm uploading this, I will probably be just about to go on the plane to come home, so I'll be depressed. I'm feeling a little bit depressed already because we go home in 2 days. But yeah, it's been great, but that's why I've been doing this, and that's why the uploads have been all over the place. So after that rabbiting, we'll crack on with this one, Leviathan, and I should try and get through this fairly quickly. So this is from a company called Lost Spirits, which was founded by a guy called Brian Davis in Salinas, California, which is here. Now, Brian Davis seems like a bit of a nutcase. I don't know exactly what experience he's got in terms of working with spirits, but he's essentially set up Lost Spirits as a way of making whiskey that he wants to drink. He uses a wooden pot still, and here's a picture of it now, which apparently he built himself. And he's very experimental. He absolutely loves peated whiskey. He's a massive fan of Octomore, the really heavily peated Bruichladdich, Ardbeg, that sort of thing. And this particular one is the second release of his Leviathan range, and apparently it's been nicknamed the Old Man and the Sea Cask. So this uses peat from Canada, believe it or not, along with 100% barley from California, and it is then matured in casks that have previously held late harvest Semillon. So late harvest Semillon is a white wine grape, but you're looking at like dessert white wine. So it's a really unusual cask to use, and it sounds like Lost Spirits releases, because I think they've done a third as well, are so weird and unusual that they just completely split the audience. It's like some people absolutely love them, and some people think they're the weirdest, most horrible things on earth. So I'm intrigued to see what this is going to be like. It's released at cask strength, so it's 53%. I don't have any water with me. I left the water downstairs, so I'm just going to have to risk it, because I don't really want to use tap water. So it's quite a pale colour. It is kind of like white winey colour. To be perfectly honest, I would almost expect that kind of colour from something like a late harvest Semillon, like a dessert wine, that sort of thing. Okay, that's really weird on the nose. Now apparently it's quite heavily peated. We're looking at, and I did see it noted at 110 ppm, which is really high. I don't think it's that high, to be perfectly honest. It certainly doesn't nose it. I think that was a misprint. Now this is weird because there is smokiness, there's iodine that you would expect from a really heavily peated Islay. But there's also like wet wood and wet hay and kind of a weird vegetal aroma, which is probably from the wine cask. And at 53%, it doesn't really burn the back of your nose or anything like that. It's peat, but it's not massively intense smoky peat. It's quite subtle, but it's really obvious. Yowza. Okay, it's a lot peatier on the palate than it is on the nose. But it's still quite soft, and it's still sweet. It's a sweet peat, but it's really intense. Quite peppery, sea salty. There is still that slightly odd vegetal note, but it's not as obviously like wet wood as it was before. It's still there, but it's more in the background. And to be honest, at 53%, I don't think it needs the water. It's actually really good. Now, apparently this is aged for under 4 years, but apparently that's what you have to put on the label according to Californian law. The thinking is, from a couple of reviews that I've read of it, and there's not that much out there to be perfectly honest, but the reviews I've read of it are saying it's probably maybe not even 2, but it doesn't really taste that young, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's probably because of the peaty flavour and then also the influence of the sweet wine cask. In terms of a price, did I try and find out? I couldn't even find this anywhere, so I have no idea how much this is. I'm willing to bet, with it being like a craft distillery from California, unusual, everything like that, it's probably quite expensive. If you can find this in the UK, I'd be amazed. In the US, I'd be willing to bet probably $60, $70, $80 a bottle, that sort of thing. Simply more of a marketing rarity thing rather than I think that would probably influence the price. However, if you're in the US and you have seen this somewhere for sale, please do write in the comments as to how much it is going for, because I'd be really intrigued as to, if this is like $30, $40 a bottle, actually quite a bit of a bargain. If it's 80, 90, it's probably pushing it a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was that price. I can see how this is going to completely throw bourbon drinkers, like standard bourbon drinkers. Ooh, that went really ashy. That all of a sudden exploded in my mouth, and it was like ash and bonfire. Totally just. That's really good. That's really unusual. And I like whiskies that are really unusual. And that's got bags of character all over its own. There's a lot of flavour in that. I can see how it's gonna throw people as well, because there is this slightly strange vegetal note, and if you like your Islay whiskies, it's slightly sweeter than you would expect, and it's got these really unusual characteristics that you probably kind of go, oh, that's a bit weird, that, not too sure about that. And if you don't drink Islay whiskies, and if you don't like peated whiskies, then the intensity of the peat is just going to completely throw you. But as somebody that likes peated whiskies and is always looking for something unusual, particularly when you're drinking a different whiskey every bloody day, that's brilliant. That's really good, and it's lingering. I can still taste this ashiness even now. That is a really unusual whiskey. Now it's gone really spicy. It kind of changes with every mouthful. It's spicy, smoky, ashy, sweet, sugary almost as well. That's really distinctive. Ooh. And then it's got, when I was at university, I was a bit of an idiot, and I smoked cigarettes for a little bit, and it was horrible. I don't know why I did it. I was a fucking dick. But that's a really cigarette-y taste that isn't particularly pleasant. The ashiness has then turned into smoking a cigarette. But then it goes, and then something else comes in. But just for a bit there, it was like you're smoking on a cigarette. Or even cigarette and smoke in the air and you haven't breathed some through your mouth. Not nice. Weird. That, really strange. Worth looking out for. If you're looking for something really unusual, if you're doing a whiskey tasting, stick that in it. That will throw everybody. Because if you did it blind and you did it from like whiskies around the world, I guarantee you 99% of the people would think it's Scotch to start with, because they'd be going, oh, it's an Islay, oh, it's probably a Bowmore, or maybe an Ardbeg, but it's not quite as intense, it's not quite as sherried as for an Ardbeg and all this lot. They would not have a freaking clue where that came from. It's nuts. It's absolutely mental, and I love it because of it. So yeah, that's me. So by the time you're watching this, unfortunately, I will be back in the UK and probably depressed as hell. I'm not looking forward to it, to be perfectly honest. But that's me done. John, thank you for that. Thank you for that one in particular. That was absolutely brilliant. I have got a few bottles to pick up. Total Wine and More, while I was out here, I mentioned them when I did the Winchester and the Copper Pony. They were really kind to donate me some. I also bought some. It's the first whiskies that I've actually bought for the challenge. They've got quite a good selection of miniatures, and I ended up having to buy 6 miniatures for a grand total of $16, which is just ridiculous price. 99 cents for a miniature. It's like 3-4 quid in the UK. But that actually takes me over 300 samples, which is mind-blowing, and I've had to spend a grand total of about 10-12 quid towards it, which is fantastic. So I will crack on with the Americans when I get back home. I've got a bad feeling I'm not going to be able to do one on Friday, and I don't have enough to get there, so I've got 2 backup videos. So Fridays might be a backup video, just to let me get back to relative normality. But yes, I hope you've managed to put up with me with weird surroundings and the video uploads being all over the place. I hopefully I've given the game away by actually having a really nice tan, but I don't think that happened. And I shall see you at the next one. Cheers.